Hi guys, it's week 2 of the college football season. So now, as I try to do every week, I will be giving my predictions starting with Texas and Michigan, the game of the week. I do think that Texas does have the advantage here. Two very good teams, but I feel like Michigan having kind of a rough start to their season. They have a difficult quarterback situation to start their season. They're still kind of trying to figure out what this team's going to look like now that guys like J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum have moved on from the program. So I do think Texas wins this one. They're favored by about a touchdown. I think they win by more than that. I'll say they get the win here by 2 touchdowns. I'll say 24-10 Longhorns over the Wolverines. Then next up, I do have Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Georgia Tech about a field goal favorite in this one. I think that's pretty accurate. I think Syracuse, they do look pretty good to start the season. Georgia Tech does too, obviously, so I do think Georgia Tech does take this one by about a field goal. I'll say 31-28. Obviously, that week 1 game against Florida State surprised everyone, but how impressive really was it? Now we see how Florida State's been struggling. So that was their chance to prove how good they really are, and I think they do, even on the road against Syracuse in a close one. I think they get the win by just a little bit. Then next up is Louisville and Jacksonville State. So I think that, Louisville, they're a very, very good team. Jacksonville State can be difficult to compete in this one. I think Louisville is about a 30-point favorite, something like that. And I think that's, again, pretty accurate. My score prediction here is going to be 48-16 for the Cardinals. Louisville, one of those teams where they're definitely going to be good. Playoffs, I don't know about that, but definitely a team to watch out for, and I think they get a big win here. Pretty easy game for them. The next up, another pretty easy game for another good team. Penn State and, if we can find Penn State here, Bowling Green, Penn State and Bowling Green. I do think Penn State wins this one pretty easily, favored by about 31. I think they win this one by more than that. I give them a 35-0 win here in a pretty easy game after what was a difficult one in West Virginia, which they took care of business there. A very popular upset pick last week when they went to West Virginia. People thought that could be a bad game for them, having to go to West Virginia week 1, but it wasn't. The defense showed up, one of the best defenses in the country, and I think they show up once again here at home. And then Oklahoma State and Arkansas. This will be a great game. Very good Big 12 team versus maybe not one of the top SEC teams, but certainly a good one. So I do think that the Cowboys need these kind of games to stay competitive in the Big 12 and eventually make a playoff run. And I do think they get the win by just a little bit. I think it's going to be very close. Could be even closer than the 8 points I'm predicting. I believe Oklahoma State is favored by 8 points. So I do think they win by that much. It's going to be a very close game. But I do like the Cowboys to get the win in this one. Next, also one of the top games of the weekend. Kansas State visits Tulane in New Orleans. I think this one could easily go either way. Kansas State is a 10-point favorite, but I'm going to kind of ignore that because Tulane's one of the better teams outside of the Power 4. So I do think that they're going to put up a very good fight because they're also competing for a playoff spot. But so is Kansas State. Kansas State obviously is very competitive in the Big 12. So this is a huge game for both teams. Loser could very well be eliminated from the playoffs depending on how the rest of the season goes. But I do think Kansas State wins. I think they're the better team, and they are able to win even though they are visiting Tulane here. I think they win by a field goal, 34-31 in this one. Then a much less close game following that. It is, if I can find them, where are they? There they are. Georgia and Tennessee Tech. Should be a very easy game for the Bulldogs led by Carson Beck. I think they win this one 73-0, a huge win here, and they should expect to win big here. Georgia, this is an easier game compared to what they'll face later in the season, but I expect them to win big here. And then another team that should win pretty easily, Notre Dame, against Northern Illinois. That should be a pretty comfortable win for them. I have them winning 38-7. They're about a 30-point favorite, and I think that's pretty accurate. Then Utah and Baylor. This one, maybe if it was in Baylor, could be a lot closer, but it's in Utah, so I like Utah to take care of business here. They're my pick to win the Big 12 conference, and I think a win here would definitely help their resume, and I think they do get that win against the Baylor Bears at home. That's followed by a rivalry game. They may not be in the same conference, Iowa in the Big 10 and Iowa State in the Big 12, but there is definitely a very strong rivalry between these two teams, Iowa and Iowa State. And also I think Iowa is definitely the better team. Iowa State will definitely make sure this is a close one. Iowa is a field goal favorite here, about a 3-point favorite, but I do think this is going to be a very close one. And I think Iowa does win by not a lot, though. I'm going to say 21-20. Very close game, very close win for the Iowa Hawkeyes here, who do keep their season, or do stay undefeated this season with a win over their rivals. Then two more games that should be pretty easy wins here. Ole Miss takes on Middle Tennessee. So they win 66-3. They're heavy favorites in that one. Then same thing with Miami and Florida. Florida A&M should be a pretty easy one for them there as well. Both these teams look great in week one. Obviously, Miami with Cam Ward went into Florida and took that one pretty easily against an SEC team. So I don't imagine they'll struggle much in this one. Same thing with Ole Miss. Took care of business last week. Should do the same this week. Here's an interesting game here. Alabama went into South Florida last year and really struggled. Barely escaped with a win. But they did end up winning that game. But at that point in the season, it was early. They didn't know if Jalen Milroe was going to end up being their quarterback. He was, obviously, and he still is. So now I think they'll win pretty easily. They're also at home this time. But it'll be interesting to see the difference between this year and last year. They are huge favorites, but should be an interesting game to watch. The comparison between this season and last season. In a game they almost lost last year to South Florida. Then Buffalo and Missouri should be a very easy win for Missouri here. They're favored by 34, and I think they win this one 49-14. Then Kansas and Illinois. Kansas could be a team that wins the Big 12, believe it or not. Used to having that happen in basketball, but maybe not in football. It could happen this year. And I think they do win over Illinois. What could be definitely a close one. Favored by 6.5. I'll say they win by a touchdown here. 31-24 over Illinois. Then easy one for Ohio State, Western Michigan at home. They should definitely win this one. I think they do. 66-7 over Western Michigan. Then LSU plays Nicholls. I would be shocked if they lose 2 in a row, especially in this game, which they should definitely win. Disappointing loss last week to USC, but I think they rebound here if they win at home against Nicholls. Then Tennessee and NC State, one of the better games of the weekend. I think Tennessee and NC State play a close one. Tennessee, a pretty large favorite, kind of surprising. 7.5-point favorite, but I do think NC State keeps it closer than that. I think the home field advantage definitely helps them. But overall, I think Tennessee does get the win, 28-24 over the Wolfpack, and a close one. Tennessee's quarterback, not sure to say his last name, I'm just going to call him Nico. He looked very good in week one. I think he definitely brings some hope to Tennessee fans. Then 2 more pretty comfortable wins. Oklahoma beats Houston here. They're big favorites, and I think they went 48-17. Then Clemson also a big favorite. I think they rebound after a tough loss to Georgia. Although not by the 16.5 points they're favored by. I'll say they win by 14, 31-17 over Appalachian State. just because it was a tough loss last week, and I think that could damage them just a little bit. Not enough to cause them to lose or anything. Then Oregon and Boise State. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Very late at night. It starts at 10 at night. So, but besides that, it should be a very entertaining game to watch. Oregon favored by 19. I think it'll be closer than that. Boise State with Genty. He had 6 touchdowns last week. I expect it to be closer than that. I think Boise State with Genty running back, I think he keeps it much closer. I think Boise State, although they don't win, end up losing 49-38 to the Ducks in a close one. Oregon, they didn't look great offensively last week, only scored 24 against Idaho. But I do think they rebound here with a 49-point game against the Broncos. Then easy one for Arizona. They win 56-10 over Northern Arizona. That shouldn't be much of a problem for them. Then USC beats Utah State after a great performance last week against LSU. They're a real playoff contender now. And then I think Nebraska and Colorado, that could be one of the best games of the weekend too. I know there's no ranked team this one, so kind of breaks the rules here, but I'm still going to talk about it because this should be a very fun game to watch. Dylan Raiola, and Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter, obviously. Should be a very fun one. A lot of points. And I do think Nebraska ends up winning it, though. 52-45 over Colorado. So those are my week 2 predictions for college football. Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? Please let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.